then let the new corp counsel and the new treasurer take over, and then either have no sale this year and just hold the properties. And there's about 25 maybe that we have that will be good, and just sell them with the next year round. If you're okay with that.
Mhm.
And then you can, once we get that preliminary, but the ordinance has to be, you can make your final decision whether you want to do the open bid, sealed bids, or go with Wisconsin surplus and do it all at the same time. So what are your thoughts?
I mean, with the question with the tax deeded properties then that are out there, the unpaid amounts are still accruing interest then, right?
No, once we take it, it will be
Oh,
under
then
the
there's no
county, so
interest
it'll be an
anymore.
exemption for the 1 year. It has happened back in the day. But I will have no problem selling it and regaining any of that
Okay.
back eventually.
Supervisor Paler.
Would we have to hold these for a full year until the following cycle, or say perhaps next spring after everything is straightened out? Could we hold it then?
You can hold the sale whenever you want to hold it. We just thought maybe if you did it all at once and do one, one set, because you'll be starting the new set and also doing that at the same time you're doing a sale, and then doing another sale, say 4 or 5 months later. That's a suggestion. You can do it whatever you want. I'm just letting you know. You guys get to make that choice.
And to let you know, the several counties are working together on this ordinance because we would like all the counties to have the same type of ordinance that meets the law. So we're working with a TOLUS law on that, and some corp councils are getting together to draft an ordinance where then all the other corp council can look at it. And we want to make sure that each county has an ordinance that it's very similar, because if it gets challenged, we would rather all work together on the challenge and be picked off one at a time if that's the way it would go.
Supervisor Pease.
Thank you, Chair. What effects does this have on the townships? And they don't get their money then either until we hold that sale, correct?
No, they've already gotten theirs.
They've already
Whenever,
gotten it.
the delinquency, our fiscal year end settles in August, they've already gotten their money.
They
The
got
only
that.
monies they might not get is if there's a special charge on there. We don't pay those out right away until they get paid to us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the recommendation is not to take any action right now, and
Yeah.
okay.
Unless, except to, if you want to authorize that, we would just hold off on the sale portion for this round. Because you guys are the boss.
Right. You see-
31 working days, calendar days.
Supervisor Paler.
I would make a motion that we hold off on the sale on these properties until such time that everything's straightened out, and or hold it till the following year.
Okay. Do I have a second? Second by Supervisor Edwards. Discussion on the motion. So the motion is to hold off until a time in the future and everything gets ironed out and not determined, but it could be even wait until next year, but we can make that determination at a later date, so.
That would be
Supervisor.
my concern, is that we haven't exactly put a time limit on it.
Well, he said either one, either we can do it earlier or later, and we can make that decision later.
Well, the very latest you can go with the new laws is this year, you have 240 days that you have to sell it by that time. So we can't go forever and ever, and I wouldn't want you to do that, but it would only be the 1 year maximum. I mean,
Well,
for a long time, if they didn't sell, we had them for like 4 or 5 years. Thank goodness we don't have that. It doesn't do that anymore. Thank goodness.
If that's the case, I guess I would change my motion to hold off on the sale of these no longer than the 240 day
Okay.
restriction on it.
Yeah, okay. So just redefining it, the motion is
Mm.
that the time certain is 200 within the 240 days, so. Does that clarify it, Supervisor Kubarski? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed signify by saying nay. Okay, that motion passes, so we'll hold off on those until a later date, so. I know we got people here that want to talk about one of the things, so if there's not an objection, I'd like to deviate from the order in the agenda and move to the resolution to authorize the American Rescue Plan Act funds for the Adams County Fire District Training Center. If there's no objection, okay, we'll move to that item. And is Kyle taking this? Or,
Mr. Chair, Yep.
yes,
I'm on. There wasn't really too much else to say other than what's in the resolution already. So if there was public participation on the agenda, I think we can go forward with that. Basically though, I'll kind of summarize it. This is a resolution to assist the fire district in building a training center in the county, which is gonna help with them keeping their all of their emergency response vehicles in the county when they're out at training. So in case they do need to respond to an emergency while there's trainings, they're able to do that. There's also other items in this resolution. It's going to create better preparedness, enhance skills and competence, improve morale, and improve public relations for firefighters within the county as well. So I guess I'll let the public participation go forward, or however you want to do this, Mr. Chair.
yes, and I mean, there's members from the fire district here that would like to speak or
Hi, good morning.
morning.
Is this working? First off, thank you for taking the time to listen to us and considering this. I'm gonna speak a little bit to some of the bigger picture challenges that we have and how this training facility will help us better serve the community. One thing that's grown in the fire service is the complexity of our calls. We are an all hazards fire department. So when you call 911, no matter what your problem is, we come and we do our best to sort out the problem and figure out what needs to be done. We lack a lot of the technical teams in this county. Things as such as hazmat, grain bin rescue, rope rescue. Part of the reason that we lack in these fields are we don't have a training facility to train on these things or practice these disciplines. This facility would give us a place to do these things and draw in the talent and the instructors that would facilitate that training. Another huge problem in the fire service today is a lack of volunteers, and this is systemic throughout the United States. So it means that we must be better when we come out, we must be better prepared, and we must work with our partners, the other fire departments in this county, in a way that's efficient. So having a place for us to come together and train together as one team with the same tactics and the same mission facilitates us serving the public with fewer people to do that job. A lot of people in this area are not able to travel to other facilities and be able to get the training that they need. This facility would bring that talent here to our county and allow us to hold these different kinds of trainings and expose our people to different techniques and people from not just the surrounding counties, but throughout the state further. One of our first things that we plan on building is an extrication pad. Just the complexities with auto extrication have grown substantially over the past 10 years with EV cars and different boron metals and things that cars are constructed of today. So this would truly, when we're called to come out and serve, help us be better at what we do to serve our community. Not just the Adams Fire Department, but as a county. Thank you.
Any other comments from the other gentleman?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is AJ Sampson. I'm a captain with the Adams County Fire District. To go along with Assistant Chief Schmidt here, he. Yep. Yep. To go along with Assistant Chief Schmidt here, he talked about more advanced, in-depth training skills. We don't even have the facilities really to do basic training skills, putting ladders up, advancing hose lines, doing hose connections, basic truck operations, anything like that. We utilize our current station as best we can. We go to area businesses. They let us do some trainings there. So this would be a big step in that as well. He touched on recruitment. The volunteer fire service is not what it used to be. For lack of a better term, the well is drying up, right? There are very few departments that are strictly volunteer anymore. And by that, I mean, they don't get anything. So our department, at the end of the year, we all receive a compensation check. There are some though that you get nothing. You get not even a penny at the end of the year. Departments have changed the way they do that in order to get people, you know, we have to provide that service. So when we say it's volunteer, it is volunteer, but we do get something out of it. Okay. So we don't want people to think like we're doing this for free because that is inaccurate. This will help. We're a member of a group called MABUS. It stands for Mutual Aid Box Alarm System. We've been doing that for almost a year and a half now. This training center will allow us to bring area departments in from surrounding counties and do trainings together and get to know each other and understand how each other operate. You know, build that camaraderie and that trust with people that we're going to be working with on a regular basis that we've never worked with before. We'll be able to bring in vendors to do demonstrations with new tools, new techniques to provide better service for the community. We can do demos for the public, you know, so they can see what kind of stuff we go through on a daily basis. No two fire scenes are alike. Something we responded to yesterday and something we respond to today are going to be completely different. So we have to be able to account for everything. In addition to that, we are currently working with Midstate, who is a partner in this training center, to develop a program with the Adams Friendship School District to get some students training in fire and EMS. So when they graduate high school, they will be a state certified firefighter 1 and have an EMT license, and they could go work at a full-time fire department if they choose. You can license or you can certify at a firefighter 1 in the state of Wisconsin at the age of 16, and you could become a licensed EMT at 18. Okay, so that's in the works, and that just all kind of correlates with this training center and having the facilities to be able to get this done here. So with that, I will turn it over to Sean Dillingham, and he'll talk more about the Midstate and continue ed side of things.
Good morning. My name is Sean Dillingham. I'm a member of the Adams County Fire District, as well as an instructor for Midstate Technical College. And to a part to what AJ was saying, high school students right now, if they sign up for the college classes to be a firefighter, if they complete EMT, EMR, firefighter 1, firefighter 2, or fire inspector, by the end of their senior year, they're eligible for a $500 compensation for each of those certifications through the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development. Kind of an incentive to bring younger people into our career field. As these two gentlemen have stated, the volunteer well is drying. You know, back 80s and 90s, employers were allowing their people to leave work to respond to community events. That's just not happening anymore. And it does take a toll. We do have the Midstate campus here in town that we can hold our classroom courses, but we are lacking a place where we can do a lot of those practicals. I believe that you all have a copy of the memorandum, the subject for proposal for Fire Service Training Center. And on the second page, it kind of goes into the current distances that people have to travel. from their departments up to the Rapids campus. So if we take, for example, the New Chester Fire Department, um, one way is about 55 minutes. And if we were able to cut that down to 15 minutes, they would be able to keep their personnel in service, their apparatus within the county, and be able to respond to calls. So we're not limiting those departments that want some additional training.
So these fine gentlemen here are all members of our staff. My name is Roger Loretz and I am the new Adams County Fire District Chief. They have all dedicated countless hours to this project already. I believe this is 2 or 2.5 years in the making. We're finally at the part that where we can start moving forward. What it comes down to is money. Midstate has committed to $250,000 over 10 years at a rate of $25,000 per year. That is a substantial amount of money, but it is not nearly enough to adequately fund this facility to a state required level of training. We will be doing more fundraising. We will be doing everything that we possibly can to fund this along with these funds if they're granted to us and Mid-State's funding. We're also reaching out for corporate sponsorships, which we do have a lot of interest in. We're working on developing that program. This center can be as cheap as we want it to be or as expensive as we want it to be, but the more expensive it is, the better the training that we're going to receive. So that's why we're reaching out to you for some help with some funding for this site. I personally believe that all of the communities involved deserve the best training that we could possibly give them. And these funds will most certainly help us do that. Thank you.
Well, we have people online, so you would,
My name is Bill Euclid. I'm the treasurer for the fire district and also chair for the town of Adams. I would say that I recommend that you approve this simply because looking at it from an elected official from the town, whatever we can do to mention to businesses and other residents that might be moving into the area to say, hey, look at, we have this training center. There is not another training center around like this. It's a good reason for you to bring your business here. It's a good reason for you to build your home here and to live here. And anything that we can do to attract that kind of participation is more than necessary and needed. So I would recommend that you approve this. And I will tell you, serving on the fire district board for more years than I want to even mention, and being treasurer for quite a few years, the dedication that these people put in to make sure that you have a safe place in this community is unbelievable. So thank you. That's all I'm going to have to say. Thank you.
okay. Committee members? Supervisor Kubarski?
All right, we haven't mentioned where this facility would be located. Would that be near the department now? And the other thing that I have concerns about is that the rationale involved, you talk about distance to Midstate, and yet we have Midstate within the city of Adams. I don't know if there's can handle that part. I mean, they'll have to tell us that. But the other part is you use New Chester, and kindly so, but you don't mention anything about Rome. That's closer to the facility in Midstate in the Rapids than it would be to Adams. So I question some of the rationale. It bothers me that you don't use the whole story and only part of it. So if you could answer where the facility would be located, would it have to be manned and how would it be manned? And is that a 24/7 deal or, I mean, there's more to this story that I have questions about. So maybe if we can get some of that answered, please.
Okay. Go right ahead.
The facility is, Allied Co-op has already given us access to the land that we're going to be used. It's the parcels directly east of the current fire station, Adams Fire Station. As for manning the facility, those facilities will be manned on an as-needed basis with volunteer hours. So all of our officers that are our instructors will be donating their time to that facility to allow our members and other members of the community to come down and train at that facility. This is all a volunteer basis. Everybody is giving up their time with their families, giving up their time at home, giving up their time at work to come down and help these members train and get better, just better serve and protect you.
If I might follow up.
Yes.
That's well and good as we're doing this, but you had already mentioned before about all the departments that are paid. And I know there's a tendency to want to pay these firefighters. And I agree. I mean, I was on there a number of years ago. They deserve to be paid. And there's gonna be a movement at some time that they're gonna have to, we may have to go that way simply because of getting people to get involved. So I yield my time.
Supervisor Taylor?
I also have some concerns. I sit on the town board in Springville, as most of you know, and our rep from the town of Springville, I was led to believe several years ago when this started that Mid-States was going to fund all this. Now I hear they're not, and I'm a little upset with Mid-States. They've already gotten $100,000 from us and have not kept the promises they gave us then. They were supposed to do some additions to this campus and add some classes here. And if you pay attention to what's going on at this campus, about the best they ever have is cake decorating classes. My wife signed up for computer classes and stuff there numerous times and could never get them because they did not have enough people. She was told she had to go to Rapids, so. And all these other communities, let's throw that in there. Are they putting up any money? This is supposed to, as the person mentioned, for other counties and whatnot, are they paying anything or is it all coming from us? And the other thing that one person mentioned about the high school students, some years back, we tried that with the ambulance service to get people to sign up for training at the high schools. And I think they had one person sign up. That's how far that went. So there was some questions in there. So if anybody would like to answer them, feel free.
Any response?
When it comes to the number of high school students, I can tell you that we currently have interest from at least half a dozen students in the community, including my own child. Actually, 2 of my boys want to be a part of this. They know that this can be a thing, and we are developing a program based off of other counties' programs. We know that this is a thing. The programs are already set in place. They just need to be figured out and adopted here with the school, with the college. As for the college funding things, they have already given us 2 years worth of their funding. It has been put into an account and saved for this project. It has been used for things like the engineering and architectural drawings and things like that. When it comes to classes that Mid-State is putting on, Mid-State is constantly teaching classes for firefighters at our station. We just finished an entry level 1 class. We are currently rolling into a hazmat operations class, and it's already planned after that to roll into a firefighter 1 class. Those classes aren't held at the campus because they have hands-on requirements that can't be held at the campus. We need equipment. We need facilities to be able to do it. So they are actually held at the fire station. Those classes would be more readily available, and we would be able to have more classes at one time with the training center because we can spread out and do it on different props on different days at different times versus doing it all inside the fire station in one training room in one bay with just the equipment that we have currently.
Supervisor Taylor?
Okay, maybe I was given some wrong information, but what happened to the idea that Mid-States was supposed to fund this totally? That was the initial plan that I was told. And we do, I don't have the exact figures, but I could probably get them from Jenny if I worked at it. I do believe Adams County has given about $10 million a year to mid-states already in taxes. I believe that's
Mr.
what
Chair,
the bill comes up to.
Yeah, go ahead, Finance Director.
yep, I actually had looked up that, figure. I requested it at the, can't remember which meeting, property committee. I worked with Jenny to get that number. For mid-state, it's right around $2.5 million for, county tax levy that goes to mid-state, like on portions of Adams County property tax bills.
And that's per year? Finance
Yeah.
Director?
Correct. That was the annual amount. I think it was roughly 3.2 million to all the tech colleges in the county. And of that, it was around 2.5 million for mid-state.
Okay. Supervisor Kuberski?
Yeah, I'd like to go back to the part about who's gonna train. If I recall correctly, Mid-State trained firefighter one back when I was involved and when others were involved. So I would assume the person that does the training has to have a certification that says that it's credible. And what's gonna change? I mean, that I would assume we'd still have to have a credible teacher involved.
So, again, my name is Sean Dillingham. I am an instructor with Midstate as well as being a member on the fire district. We do have a number of in-house instructors on the fire district that work for Midstate as fire service instructors. And we have been utilizing those local instructors for classes down in this area. As far as the other stuff dealing with Midstate, the Adams campus now has a new campus dean, and that happened here around the 1st of July. His name is Rick Anderson. He is also the dean of the School of Public Safety for Midstate. I do know that there are plans in progress to renovate the current physical campus here in town. I do not know what that entails. I'm just not part of that. But we do have certified and qualified instructors that will be completing these training events. When it comes to the fire departments within the area, all of our county fire departments need a place to train. And it's a lot easier to have something here within the county, something close, rather than having to travel half hour, 45 minutes, an hour away and take that equipment and personnel out of service and not have it available for an emergency response if it's needed. So I would just like to mention that.
Supervisor Pease and then Supervisor Taylor.
One of my questions would be, what is the overall price of this? How close are you to, you said you want to put a pad down right away. Would this funding go to do that? Or are you or is there a price tag on this whole thing?
The price tag on this varies depending on the funds available to us. We can build a burn tower out of Connex boxes and do it for cheap, or we can raise enough money to have a professional service come in and build us a 20-year burn tower. It's all dependent on where we stand with our funding at the time that we get to that stage. The plans for this training facility were to go in stages, and the extrication pad is first. This money would more than pay for the road work and the grading and things like that to completely fund this extrication pad, and then some. And then we would be able to lay out the groundwork for the rest of the training center to move forward. Once that groundwork is done, we can start putting in props as the funding becomes available to us. So if we raise $40,000 for, and this is a rough estimate for a gas prop, let's say a propane tank prop, we can get that installed and get it used and getting it in service as the funds become available, instead of having to build this all at one time and take a substantial amount of money. You know, Connex boxes can be purchased for $10,000 to $15,000 and stacked up, and we can use our own personnel to make a burn center out of it. Or you can spend up to $600,000 or $700,000 on a proper burn tower. Our people are committed to fundraising and doing all of the things that we need to do, putting in our own labor, reaching out to construction companies. We have already done this. A lot of places are willing to donate time and equipment, things like that, to get more done for us for little or no cost at all to the department or the public. These funds will definitely help move the process along farther, allowing us to go farther than just an extrication pad this year.
Supervisor Pease.
Thank you for that answer. I'm fully in support of this. I think this is a good idea for ARPA money to put it back in our community. The other thing I would like to ask Kyle a question. It says any unspent funds from other approved projects will be utilized. Do you have any idea what that possibly could be, Kyle?
Finance Director? He dropped off. Oh,
He's not on the-
he's not on there now, so.
Okay. But yeah, then I would love to see this approved. Thank you.
Supervisor Paler?
So if I understand this correctly, the dollar figures that Mid-States is going to put in are basically minimal to what the actual cost is going to be. And how about the other communities that are going to be using this training center? Are they putting up any money, or is Adams County funding all this?
The other communities haven't been contacted. This is the first step in the fundraising process for us. We are also reaching out to corporate sponsorships as well.
For question to answer, Supervisor Pease, with the ARPA reports on there. And I know it says in the resolution, roughly 127,000, and we can see right now the open funds are 126,957.
I was just looking to see if there's going to be any more that he first saw. That would be the question. Besides that.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm back on. I'm sorry about that. I had a connection issue.
So,
Sorry, what was the question?
the question was, right now, there's currently roughly about 127,000, but what about anticipating other unspent funds that are mentioned in the resolution?
So the way that we wrote the resolution was, if there are any other unspent funds, yeah, it's about $127,000 in unspent funds currently. There are some projects that are still ongoing. So those have the potential of coming in underspent, and then those funds would roll over to the fire district if this resolution goes forward.
Supervisor Kubarski?
Mr. Chair. One of the questions that I always mull over in my mind is, would we even be considering this if it wasn't for ARPA funds? I know that's a tough one to answer, but by the end of, they have to be appropriated by the end of this year or the end of next year? This year,
This year.
2024.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
But-
Mr. Chair, I can kind of touch on that, I guess. So the American Rescue Plan Act funds were to assist communities in recovering from the COVID pandemic. That was the initial reasoning for those. And then they had broadened the spending to typical governmental projects, which this would fall under, because there are governmental entities that have fire and EMS services as well. We're just trying to, I guess the goal of the ARPA work group is to try to give something back to the community that benefits everyone in the community. So in a roundabout way, that would probably be a no. We wouldn't be looking at this type of spending because typically it would come from tax levy.
Okay. He understands what you said, so Supervisor Paler.
Okay.
Follow-up question on what Bob just had. I potentially see this going somewhere close to $1 million, somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million. So the rest of this money, are they going to be coming back? And this is a question for the fire department. Are you going to be coming back to the county looking for the rest of the money, or are you going to be able to raise it elsewhere?
Go right ahead.
The intention right now is to raise it on our own.
Mr. Chair,
You Supervisor Kubarski.
I personally, I'd like to see some of that effort is going to be done and some results of it before we commit $127,000. Right now, it's just on a whim that they think, the fire department thinks that they will be able to get money in, but we don't. The only thing you've got so far is about, I think you said Midstate kicked in 50,000. You said 2 payments worth, and I think each year is 25,000 for 10 years. So, I personally would like to see some efforts that have been made and results before we just commit to turning over another 125,000.
Supervisor Pease.
Yeah, but he also said that this would let them build the pad right now for training. And any type of training, any type of thing they do right now is better than what they have. And I think that pad, if it saves one person in this county, is money well spent.
I would like to invite the supervisor over to the fire district to come and see the clearing of the land that has already happened. The sign is up, the stakes are out, the drawings have been engineered. The holdup has been the city and the red tape. We have finally gotten through that. We are putting in the erosion control matting now. As soon as that is up, we have the clearance to start moving dirt and to start putting everything out and getting ready to grade for the pad to be put in place. We've already contacted the heavy equipment companies who are willing to donate the time, as well as contractors. Everything is in place and already moving forward. The problem that is been put in place for us up until now has been the city of Adams and the red tape that we've had to jump through. We have now gotten through that. We are about 3 to 4 weeks away from starting to see actual progress.
Supervisor Edwards.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, I'm in favor of this, and do we need a motion to approve at this time?
We would, yes. If we're
And I'll make the motion to approve this.
okay. Okay, motion is to approve the resolution and move it forward to county board. Any other discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Okay. The motion passes, 2 nays, Kubarski and Paler. So the motion will be referred on to county board, so, but if the offer stands and Supervisor Kubarski or anybody else wants to go over, so. Okay. But it will go to county board in in August here, so. So if you want to come and speak, please sign up, and we'll probably won't be, just so you know, I mean, we're not as stringent here at this committee on the 3-minute rule, but I will be more stringent on the 3-minute rule there because, you know, we have more public that might desire to speak, and, okay. So, thank you. what's that? August 20th is that meeting, so it's 6 p.m. So, okay. So we'll go back up to the 2025 wage and compensation study implementation. So that was on. You guys can leave if you want, so you don't need to stay. So you won't bother if you walk out. So we won't be offended. So this is exciting stuff.
Mr. Chair?
Listen, yes, Sue. Yes, Finance Director.
Yep, so we put this item on the agenda because we wanted to discuss about the wage study. I know that they did the presentation at County Board. And they were projecting an increase, net increase of about $935,000, including wages and benefits with the implementation of this wage study. Couple areas I want to talk about: parks, solid waste, highway, child support, register of deeds. All of those departments, they are essentially self-sufficient and not supported by tax levy. So I'm kind of getting into like what the actual like net cost will be, excluding those departments. So it'll be about $752,000. So those departments, their cost is about $173,000 of the wage study. So 935 minus the 173 comes out to about $752,000. Now the remainder of that, where we're going to get that from, we have tuition assistance program. It isn't being fully utilized. We funded it with $30,000 every year. It's only ever gotten up to about $15,000. So there's a $15,000 savings there. We're going to cut that by $15,000. There's outside agency funding, which would be about $76,000. There is contracted services within the finance department budget. That was for the wage study, so we can remove that from the budget and that's about $95,000. Our methodology and how we budget for vacant funded positions. Currently, we budget in vacant funded positions at the 2-year rate, which is inflated by about 18% because of how quickly people progress on the wage schedule. So that would be a savings of about $90,000. The contingency fund, in the 2024 budget, we had contingency of about $152,000. And that was for the cost of living adjustment contingency. So that contingency wouldn't be there anymore. That's another savings of about $152,000. And then the anticipated levy increase. Now this is based off of last 5-year average of what we were able to get for net new construction. So it's recent years, it's been higher, but it's a 5-year average. So it's about $286,000 we would be able to increase the levy. So we're up to about $714,000. And then, so the net amount that we need is about $752,000. We have $714,000. As we go through the budget process, we'll be able to make up that roughly $38,000. So we just wanted to talk about how we're going to be able to afford it and what our plan is going forward.
So, and we'll hear more on it as we move forward into the budget process.
Correct.
Okay.
But the initial outlook is that we'll be able to afford this.
So, at least for 1 year.
Yep,
But that's
Mr.
the way it
Chair,
always is.
so-
That's the way it always is, you know, I mean, yeah. I mean,
right. But I think with the spreading out where the midpoint is, I think that's going to make our salaries more affordable going forward, because we won't have such dramatic increases up front in the first 2 years that people are employed. But what the wage study also did, there's a number of positions where it did raise the starting pay to be more competitive, more in line with starting pay in other agencies.
Any questions from the committee on that? I know if Forward Analytics did some reporting and we can get some of that if we want for wages. I know that comment came up in the county board meeting about the lower wages being so high. But if you look at what has happened since COVID and since 2020, there has been a big increase in the lower wages and not as much in the higher wages. So you're seeing those lower wages to being able to hire entry-level employees, and those employees that were making less, they actually have benefited quite a bit in the last few years. And I mean, the county probably has to stay in line with that, or we will not be able to get those entry-level employees. It's just a cost. And then I know people might think that Adams County is Adams County, but we still do compete with outside areas. I mean, people easily travel to the Dells. I mean, how many of the high school students, will travel to the Dells to work because they can get more money? I mean, a lot of them will, as long as your mom and dad have a vehicle they can use here. So any other questions, I mean, on the wage study that you will want to see in the future? I mean, we can let them know but I wanted to cover it just so the admin and finance had a night, so they had an idea of where we're going to be, and where it was. I mean, that was a big dollar amount that went out, and, how's it going to work into the budgets?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Hey, Kyle, do you want to address that, what it would have been had it not been for the wage study, just to kind of put it in perspective?
Yes, it would have been about $970,000 under the old pay plan. That's with the cost of living adjustment.
But the cost of living adjustment is built into the wage study too, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So Supervisor Kubarski?
Yeah, can you explain why with the wage study, it's less than it was before? Or what it would have been, excuse me?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, go ahead, Kyle, because I think you're gonna repeat about the spread, right?
Right. Yeah. So the midpoint was moved from 2 years to 10 years. So the midpoint on the old wage schedule, there was a 35% spread from the minimum to the maximum. And then the midpoint fell at 2 years, which was roughly an 18% increase from the time someone starts employment to 2 years. So they progressed halfway down the wage schedule in just 2 years. So we're moving the midpoint out to 10 years with this wage schedule. It's not going to be beneficial to all county employees where they're going to see an increase as of January 1. But what it's doing, it's leveling it out. So we're not having to fund these vacant positions at that inflated 18% rate. So we're going to be budgeting a little differently. We're going to budget like a 4% cushion because we're going to be budgeting at the step 2 rate of the new wage schedule. So between each step, there's roughly 2% increase. So that's why I say 4%.
Supervisor Kubarski?
And so all the side benefits stay the same? That you figured they all stay alike they are now?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes, all of the other benefits would stay the same. There are a few changes related to when people get step increases, and then there's some other considerations within the personnel manual that we're looking at. But in general, they should all stay the same, like health insurance, that type of stuff. Hope that answers the question.
Kyle, remind me, what is the percentage that the county pays now for health insurance?
85%.
Okay. Supervisor Peace?
First of all, I have to say, Mr. Gaberski was correct. A couple of years ago, when we voted not to do the wage study, I see the value in the wage study now. And I appreciate those remarks back then. Second of all, I've already seen in this county that, the school district just raised their minimum to 16 and we're at 15, correct? So I mean, sometimes I don't even know if the wage study kind of gets it right because I think I see more of that instead of less of that. And I worry about our entry level people not looking at it just for that dollar. I mean, I just saw a report about what $20 an hour makes about 42,000 a year. And then think of what we've made over our lifetime. Could we live on that right now? I don't know. I mean, I would try, or I'd be getting a second job, but I mean, at $16 an hour, that's only about 34,000 in a 2,000 hour job a year. 2,080, I think it's based on now. Thank you.
Supervisor Paler.
The figures that you gave us at the $752,000 for the wage study, and then a little over 900,000 for the cost of living, at what percentage were you figuring that cost of living?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, so when they did the wage study, they placed everyone on the steps I'm sorry, I gotta back up here. When they did the wage study, they created the pay grades, and then they added in the cost of living and then placed people on the steps. The cost of living percentage on there, Cynthia, do you recall what that was? Sorry.
Yeah,
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I believe it's 4%. And Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so I'd like to address the starting wage being 15 versus the 16. We don't have a lot of positions that are starting at 15. So it's Kyle, do you have a kind of, or Carol, do you have an estimate of like how many positions that really is? And the other thing to keep in mind, these are starter positions, you know, so it's not skilled. It's kind of like, you know, if they stay long enough, there's a potential to move up. So kind of bear that in mind too. But Carol, do you have a figure of how many personnel that impacts?
1,001. More than a second then. Sorry.
So the positions that start out at the $15 are like our library aides, our park patrol, which we don't have anybody in the park patrol position right now, and the transportation drivers at HHS. Otherwise, the next step starts at 1628.
Okay.
That's good information. So thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Kyle, do you have any idea on how many positions will not get any raise because of this wage study or a decrease in wages?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
There's not going to be anybody that will be decreasing in wages if they're placed in a step. That the way that we placed them in the steps were in the step below the next increase. So if they were, if it was coming back saying that their wages were too high, then we were placing them in a step that would be affording them an increase. The number of employees that are frozen, I think. Sorry, Carol, you might have that readily available. I'm having connection issues with getting on.
Well, and those can be questions that you can bring back next month, right? I mean.
Yeah. Carol might have it if she has access to this spreadsheet from Risk Strategies, though. Sorry to put you on the spot, Carol.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So I'll give Carol some time here. So the methodology that was originally presented to us as far as the employees that perhaps were paid higher than what the wage study was indicating where they should be on the steps. Originally, we would have had some individuals that would have been frozen for 10 years, or I think in one case, 15 years. And so what we decided as a group then is to not penalize someone because they negotiated a better price when they came into the county. And, you know, it is what, I mean, we've inherited a lot of the negotiations that have happened in the past. So what we decided then is that at the worst for an employee, they're frozen for 2025. They move on the next year. So it's like, if their step was going to be at a 5, but they're paid at a 15, then they start at the rate that gets like what Kyle's talking about, one lower that would be within their pay so that no one is below where they should be paid. And then it moves on from there. Like that's their new starting point. So the next time it's available for a step, they get it. The other thing is, at some point after a midpoint, so you have, you know, up to 10 years, every year they're going to see a step. And then after year 10, it's every 2 years that they see a step. If they're in that group that's above 10, so let's say they're frozen for 25, and 26, they would still get a cost of living. They may be frozen in the step, but they're going to get a cost of living. So this is my point I'm trying to express. They're only frozen for 2025.
Did you have an answer?
I went on my spreadsheet and quickly counted the individuals, so don't hold me to this number. I have 82 individuals that will be red circled. We'll call it red circled for 2025. And 5 on-call employees, because they start out at the start rate and there could have been some changes in those categories. Sure.
Supervisor Paler?
So to put this in layman's terms, the actual figure that the employees will be getting will be the wage study plus cost of living?
No, the cost of living wasn't included in the wage study already, correct?
Mr. Chair? Yes, so the cost of living was built in. And the point is, if you can imagine, what was the number that were frozen? Had we not put a cost of living in there, it would have been a higher number of people being frozen. Okay, so that's just a consideration.
Okay. And we'll continue to hear more about that as the budget goes forward. So the next item on the agenda is look to have an action on the county treasurer and finance director to utilize PMA investment with their discretion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yep.
mean, there's
So I
no-
wanted to have that item on there, just to kind of get a discussion, with PMA. So we have, I think it's $9 million with Prevail Bank at about a 5% interest rate. That money has been sitting there with Prevail for a number of years, I think probably 2 or 3 years. It's just grown from there. But we see periodically we'll see better investments come up with PMA that are at a higher interest rate that we would like to be able to capitalize on. And the way that we're investing with PMA, it's through U.S. Treasuries and CDs only. That's all that we're able to invest with. So we're just trying to make it so that way we can fully utilize the ladder approach that we're using. And what I mean by that is the ladder approach is we're having CDs or treasuries mature every month. It's about, right now, we're kind of trying to get it to be about $500,000 that are coming to maturity every month. So that way, if we do need to move money out of PMA, then we have that availability to do so. But like I said, we've had that $9 million sitting with Prevail that hasn't been fully utilized. Obviously, if like we see some come through that are a lower interest rate than Prevail, we may not end up going forward with that. A lot of times the banks, they end up lagging and dropping the interest rates, so they're all over the place when the interest rates start to decline, which is what we're kind of seeing right now. We just had some quotes from the PMA for some securities and CDs, and it looks like some of the banks were all over the place. So what we're trying to do is basically allow, get admin and finance to allow the county treasurer and finance director to invest with our discretion. I believe there is a investment policy in the fiscal manual that allows us to do so as well. I guess if there's any questions, I can probably answer them.
Supervisor Kubarski.
Yeah, Kyle, so that's the source of this is the interest or the earnings from the investments we have now? Or is just additional money?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, we would be looking at investing additional money. Right now, I believe we transferred it's either 9 million or 9.5 million over to PMA for investment, and we haven't had to pull any out for
Right.
cash flow reasons.
Currently in the treasurer's report is 9.9 million that's in there with PMA.
Okay.
We've got it up on
Yep,
the
I
screen.
think it was,
So,
yeah, and I think the initial cash that we transferred was like either 9 or 9.5 million. I can't recall it off the top of my head.
so Supervisor Pease.
Well, when looking at that sheet, Kyle, Prevail is actually higher PMA investments, but you think that pulling some of that out of there and putting back into PMA is going to be a better value for us?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, potentially it could be. It depends on what the interest rates do, because the one with Prevail currently, I believe that's just a money market, so that would actually fluctuate. What we're trying to do is secure interest rates into the future, so we don't run into issues that we had in the past when the interest rates tanked. I think LGIP interest rate was down to like 0.1% at some point in time. So what we're trying to do is secure interest rates that are favorable for the county, so we don't see those interest rates drop off and then we have a huge loss in interest income. What that does, it kind of keeps the interest rate level for the stuff that we have invested with PMA in like long term. And we're looking at CDs out 12, 13, 14, 15, all the way up to 24 months. At the moment, there are a few that we're looking at that are closer, just to kind of get to that $500,000 maturity every month. Hope that answered the question and I didn't ramble too much.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to put Kyle on the spot. So Kyle, just to set an example, during COVID, and the reason why ARPA even came about was that we had a loss of revenue and most of it, I mean, it was in our interest income. We had a loss of revenue. And then so instead of like replenishing our fund, we decided then to use ARPA for the community. Okay, so just maybe understand where that number was coming from for ARPA. Okay, so Kyle, how much interest income did we basically lose when the interest rates dropped? Because we didn't have something like PMA where it sets it and locks it in for a period of time, and then you can rely on it for expenditures in the future. So Kyle, I hate to do it to you, but hopefully you have it in your head. It was sizable.
Yes.
Yeah, it was, I'm having connection issues with trying to get into Skyward and online right now, but I did review them before I went on vacation. It was, I think in the COVID year, our interest income was right around only $400,000, and so that was a loss of close to $1 million, because in the year prior we had about 1.4 million in interest income.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So by setting investing in PMA, which is secure, because you heard it was the Treasury and it's CDs, very low risk. I mean, if any, because the government would have to go bankrupt for the Treasury. All right. So with that, when we're budgeting. Oh, all right. I don't even know where I was going now. Thank you. I guess my point is, right now we have a little trepidation in relying on an interest income figure to support our operations when we go through the budget process, because it's risky. And right now, we are very conservative with the amount of interest income. Last year, we were conservative and thankful that, the market came back and we actually realized more interest than what we had budgeted. So the point is with this is that by standardizing and setting something that we can rely on, we can more easily now feel confident on relying on an interest income number because we can project.
I mean, I know our local bank is, still good to deal with. I mean, I hate to see us move monies out of our local bank. I mean, I can see monies from the Prevail Bank and moving out of there, but
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Kowarski.
Okay, one of the things that bothers me a little bit is the fact, this is designed for county treasurer and finance director to utilize PM investment at their discretion. The fact is, we will be dealing with a new treasurer, one or the other. And to do this and give that kind of, shall we say, power, I mean, Kyle would be our stable of those two at that point. And I don't know. And the other thing is, we've got to come up with $4 million for solid waste.
We'll get to that.
Well, then let's get to it. This is an investment.
Mr.
Supervisor
Chair?
Pease.
Actually, I'm kind of in the same boat with Bob here in this, except I'd feel a little bit better if it was county treasurer, finance director, and Cynthia. Because in retrospect, if they make a move and she doesn't know about it, it's her job on the line a little bit, because we don't want to lose money in this either. She should have a say in what they do.
Supervisor Taylor.
Is this something that has to be decided on now, or can we kick this can down the road for a little bit?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
It's not something that needs to be decided on. We just wanted to get some discussion going. But know that it may come up later on. I think I hear some trepidation with, the turnover in the treasurer's office, that I understand. So maybe once we have, I think Janny's done at the end of this month. So once we figure out the treasurer's office, then maybe we discuss it further.
We could do something now and then blame her.
That's the way it goes.
But Mr. Chair.
Well, and I understand too, but I know we got that money in Prevail Bank, and I know the interest rate, when you look at that PMA, the PMA is returning 4.77, but when you open that, they're over the 5% that's at Prevail right now. From the rumblings that came up from the Fed, I mean, looks like they're going to be, reducing the interest rates here. So if we wait a month, it might be, well, we should have did it last month, and now we don't have the actual, we didn't move some of that money now when we could have. So, I don't know. I could see even in the meantime, right now, taking some of that $9 million and moving it over and letting it move it into PMA to try to capture some of those longer term CDs right now, where the rate is still up. Because I think, in the near future, we might be seeing it go down from what the Fed has indicated, but.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So I want to talk about internal controls quick. So Janny, how many signatures are on, like who can actually move the money, physically move it? Anywhere, like if you have any, yeah, PMA, sure. Okay, so right, so.
The bank, the regular banks. Oh, sorry. We have the control that if one person's moving it, somebody's got to authorize it. So right now it's myself, the two deputies. We have Liana set up for a follow-up because she's on the accounts. So there's more than one person definitely in all aspects.
So, Mr. Chair, I guess what I heard it, that perhaps we can move forward to kind of secure some investments and then work on an additional layer of internal control if you want to somehow include the county manager. I have no signing authority on the accounts. I'm separated from that, but perhaps, I'm in the loop that I can approve something so that it's in internal controls, it's called custody, authorization, and reporting. So you want those functions separated. So I'm not in custody, but I could authorize and then somebody else does the reporting. But if you want more layers, that's something we can work on internally
Right.
and then communicate that.
But internally, you wouldn't have to have authorization on the
Nope.
accounts just to have a signature on
Mhm.
on the form that was actually authorizing you to move the money, right? So we know that the county manager would be aware of it because their initials would be on there at least.
And Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Some of these opportunities that come from PMA and experience when I used to be a finance director, it's like you get a notice and you got we got 2 hours because this is live market stuff that's happening and we have to take advantage of it. So what if I'm on vacation? What if I'm, so anyway, we can work on that, but right now I guess we're just wanting maybe approval to just move on so that we can put our money where it's more secured and more manageable and predictable.
So. What's the committee's pleasure? Nothing? At this time?
Kyle.
Meet that.
Yes.
You're rattling something there, please.
Oh, sorry.
I think
Just
you're
getting a drink of water.
You're mixing up mojito or
No, I was just getting a drink of water.
so.
I haven't been muting because I've been talking so much, so
Okay,
I apologize.
that's okay.
Brought my Adams County water bottle all the way out to Massachusetts, so.
So, treasurer?
I know everybody's got questions and would it be something to consider to utilize at their discretion? Would you at least consider or take a consideration, take some of the prevail monies at this point and let us use them? Because I know you limited it first time.
Well, that's what
I'm
I
trying-
threw out there, and
I'm
I don't want to
trying
make the motion, but
Mr.
You're
Chair?
not getting it.
Okay, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I just want to remind everyone, back when we first introduced PMA as a concept or an opportunity to invest, that you guys had some trepidation about investing because you thought maybe it was risky, and then you wanted to kind of go through a period of time that kind of proved that, this is coming true. It's being realized that it is a good investment. So here, I wouldn't want it to be limited. If there was an opportunity for us to take advantage of a great interest rate, that I wouldn't want to be limited by dollars. So but it's the committee's pleasure, I suppose.
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor Jaworski.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we originally agreed to 5 million and now we're almost double that right now. So, I mean, where does it end or should it end?
Yeah,
Mr. Chair.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, so with our fiscal policies, in there, we do have the investment policy, which designates the finance director and the county treasurer to work together with investing the county's money in the best manner possible. And by securing the interest rates that we can with PMA when they're offered, it could assist the county in stabilizing what we collect in interest income and then help stabilize with budgeting for that interest.
I'll make a motion that we allow them to reinvest the prevail money as they seem fit. And, with, county manager authority for that money. Well, with the treasurer and the finance director.
Okay. No second. So. Okay, we're gonna move on then, so, we'll move on, resolution to recognize, Janie Zander for 33 years of service to Adams County. Okay, we'll move on, no one's gonna do that.
Just what exactly are we recognizing her for?
Is that a motion by Supervisor Paylor to move that
That's a
forward?
motion.
By second by Supervisor Gabarski. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I just want to say I've been working hard all my life.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Okay, we'll move that on, so. That'll be on the next county board agenda. Please don't take offense of anybody on the county board that. Yes. Then we have the transferring $4 million from the debt service fund to the solid waste as a no interest loan.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Finance Director.
Yep. I'm not sure if the clerk has the schedule pulled up.
Yes, she does.
Okay. So on the left-hand side, you're going to see the payment due date for this is for our current debt of the 2019A. And then going forward from there, further to the next column to the right, it's the transfer from solid waste. Currently, solid waste is transferring $740,000 over to the debt service fund to pay off the 2019A debt issuance. So that $740,000 is going to continue all the way until 2032 when it drops off to about $297,000. And that would pay off the 2019A debt issuance and $4 million transfer from the debt service fund. Next column over is just the transfer to solid waste, that $4 million. And then the next column is the 2019A debt payoff, roughly $5 million. When I took all of the principal and interest payments into account, it was about $4.5 million. So that $5 million is possibly higher than what we would end up having to pay for the net payoff in 2026. Then the next column over is the tax levy. Currently, we budget $168,130 in tax levy in the debt service fund. There is an exemption with the levy limit worksheets that allow us to levy the principal and interest payments for that given year. And we were anticipating to increase it to that limit of the principal and interest payments. So that's $409,000 in 25 and then $404,000 roughly in 26. And then that levy would fall off because we would not have debt after 26. Next column over is projected sales tax collections. Those are using, I have a spreadsheet that goes back to sales tax collections from 1997 to forecast those numbers. So those are fairly conservative numbers because it has been growing considerably, but it takes all of the historical data into account when forecasting. Next column is the transfer to the capital funds. Currently, we transfer from debt service over to the capital funds. There were some departments that we funded through the general fund. So those got added back in as a worst case scenario for the 25 budget. So that's $1.3 million. And then we have a growth factor in there as well. Then the next column you're going to see is debt service fund. That's the cash balance as of 12/31. There's a difference between fund balance and cash balance because fund balance is all assets. This is just the cash balance year end in 2026. It's anticipated it'll be close to $400,000 after paying off the 2019 A debt issuance. Then the next column over is due from solid waste. So you can see due from solid waste at the end of 23 was roughly $2.2 million. They're making a $740,000 transfer in 24. And if we transfer 4 million from debt service to solid waste, they'll owe another $4 million. So that comes out to 5.4 million at the end of 24 that solid waste would owe the debt service fund. And then all the way on the right is the fund balance as of 12/31. So it's anticipated the fund balance as of 12/31 would be roughly $7.6 million. Now that's the debt service fund cash balance and the due from solid waste balance, because that's accounting for all of the assets and liabilities in the debt service fund. So in our projections, we project that if we do transfer this cash over to the solid waste fund, that we would still have enough to pay off the 2019 A debt issuance in 2026, as we had planned to do. And solid waste would still be able to continue to just make those $740,000 payments until it's eventually the $4 million transfer that we're anticipating is paid off. Hope I explained that clearly for everyone. I don't have the meeting up in front of me, but I have the spreadsheet. So if there's any questions.
Supervisor
Be able
Pease.
to make those $740,000 payments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes, we believe that solid waste should be able to make those $740,000 payments. They already did the transfer for it for this year. We're forecasting in for the solid waste committee, there's going to be rate changes annually. We're going to evaluate the rates annually going forward. That way we have better budgeting, because the cost of everything goes up, and we need to keep the rates continuing to move with at least CPI or other metrics, and also as recommended by risk strategies. We did put them on an accelerated schedule from risk strategies recommendations so we could get them off the levy sooner, which we did in 2025's budget.
Okay. Supervisor Bailey.
Kyle's presentation was extremely clear for once.
I'll just take vacation more often.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yep.
I don't know. I believe this is something we basically have to do. It's kind of a no-brainer, so I would move that we go forward with it.
Motion to transfer $4 million from the debt service fund to the solid waste fund is a no interest loan. Second by Supervisor Edwards. Any further discussion or questions? Supervisor Pease.
Will we ever know a number if we would have went out for debt service on this compared to if we would have invested that money?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I was struggling whether to share this with you or not. Okay. So can I draw your attention to the tax levy column? Okay. So typically every year the county would budget 168,130, and that would go to debt service. Okay. You can see there's a jump, right? There's an increase. So because that resolution didn't pass, the 2024 resolution did not pass for the 4 million as a source of funds to replenish negative cash at solid waste, it had an impact on the levy. So there you see the impact from 168,130 to 409 in 25. And again, it's going to happen in 26. Just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Okay. So the motion is to transfer $4 million from the debt service fund to the solid waste fund as no interest loan. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. That motion is passed. Next, we'll move on to project status report. Anything you want to highlight on there, Kyle?
Mr. Chair, I don't have anything. There are a couple items that I did add. We are moving forward with positive pay. We have some training mid-August to go through positive pay with the bank, and that's basically to prevent checks from being fraudulently cashed.
So. Okay. Otherwise, treasurer's report. She says still here.
And I'm not sleeping. My last one.
And we have looked at some of this already now, so.
Any questions? I mean, it's all status quo. Like I said, this is a month behind. So I know your questions on the PMA average, the 4.77, that again is an average of all the accounts is what we were kind of utilizing. And we reinvested again just last week. There were the two that were still over 5% that a lot of them are dropping. They were lower this time. So that's, I can back up what he was saying prior of his concern about maybe possibly dropping rates. But it still looks good.
Okay.
Chair.
Yes.
Jenny, now apparently you're responsible for making this out. What about next month? I mean, if you going to put one of those gals in charge of making sure this is accurate?
Yep, the deputy, that's their job. And if I wasn't here, even if I wasn't retired, if I was gone, this would be their job. And we've been working on this for minimum 6 months to a year because I've known this for a while and I've been training and they're doing very well. So they'll be able to help you out.
Thank you.
If not, Bob knows where you live.
Maybe not.
Okay. Thank you very much. IT director?
Morning, everybody. Is there any questions this month's report?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Don't leave before you leave. You know, I got a question too on an email that I'm supposed to open up, but I'm supposed to do a DocuSign thing and I don't trust it.
I do have a question. Do we get, I see you did, credit card machines. Are we subject to that 3% that when we use it, like everybody else?
That would be a Kyle question. I don't think we are because the county collects a fee from the users and that substitutes for and I don't think it's quite 3%, is it? Do you know what the number is, Jenny? There's a minimum,
There's,
but
depending on the transaction, it is on the customer, on the county. We do not pay for those machines. It's on to them. And like right now, mine is 2.35% or 2.5, depending on which company it is. Debit cards are like 1.5, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Next we have HR report.
Good morning, everyone. July was a little bit busier month than June was. We had quite a few resignations. I received all these resignations, or most of the resignations in July, and you can see some of the dates. Their last dates will be in August, so I did put them on the report for you. The August ones will also be in next month as well. So we've got those positions posted. I did add a new section on the report regarding pending offers of employment, so you can kind of see where we are, where certain positions, where they're, the postings are closed and what the status is on those. We only had a few new hires in July, so that was kind of a slow month for that. Otherwise, the rest of the report is just like it is as usual. We did have two transfers, internal transfers. One will be in July and one is gonna be in August. Those were added. But otherwise, the rest of the report is pretty much similar. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Supervisor Edwards?
Mr. Chair, I noticed that you've got some positions are like posted twice. Is that like separate postings or just the same job being posted 2 times or 3 times?
What that means is that either, the position was originally posted and, either the candidate, did not accept the position, there was no second candidate, so it was posted again. Or, it could have been another vacancy with that position as well.
So it actually means both.
Yes, so the custodian position was posted twice in 2024 for the vacancy. And now the fiscal accounting clerk, that was posted twice because the individual that was in the fiscal accounting clerk transferred to another position. So then her position is being posted again, or that position is being posted again. So
Okay.
yeah, it means that they've been posted that many times in 2024 for
Okay, thank
particular
you.
vacancies.
Okay, thank you for that report. County clerks.
Any questions with my report?
I almost hate to say it, but the directory, it says you do it monthly. However, it hasn't been updated after some of the board members changed, and then there was some other things in there too, so you might, when you get a chance to take a look at it.
It's updated after a county board, every month.
Oh, I just looked at it.
Are you looking at the correct directory?
Get on directory.
Supervisor Gabrowski, I can tell him that we have updated that directory probably at least 10 times this month.
Yeah, there's been a lot of changes and we have been updating it.
Oh,
You have to let them know what you're looking at
Yeah.
yeah,
and changes that aren't in there, so.
okay. By the way, it wasn't criticism. I just
No,
said.
no. I
Okay.
totally understand.
Your computer isn't updating. Okay. Next then, thank you for that report. We'll move on to the Corp Council report. This is last meeting too, unless we decide to have another one. but-
July was another busy month here, and on my reports, I try to put just the main things that are done in the office here. Obviously, I can't put down everything, otherwise we'd have long pages, but I did want to point out one thing here. Under Health and Human Services, at the bottom, I have County of Responsibility Determinations. That's one of the things that I don't put down often. It's a little thing that happens, where say an individual is placed under a mental commitment in another county, but that county thinks that no, Adams County should pay for it. The person should be from there. And we have a dispute over that. Well, over the last few months, it happens more often because no county wants to pay for it, be responsible financially. And I've have not been agreeing to the transfers here. And so it goes on to the state and I have to put together written arguments. And this one, another one just came back ruling in our favor for another county, but we've been successful on doing that. And I kind of look back in the past and it looks like in the past, we might've just been accepting them. I haven't. It saves the county some money. So that's one of the notes I made to the new Corp Council coming in. Make sure that you check whether we're really should be the county of responsibility.
Questions? Supervisor Edwards?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Do we have any plan for a temporary corp council? Because more than likely, we will not fill that position by the end of the month.
Yeah, obviously, we have it posted. I've also contacted through the Corp Council emails if anybody's interested to apply here too. I've talked to a few individuals that I know that I'd feel comfortable if they applied. So I don't know where we're at on that so far, but Cynthia and I obviously will be working together and trying to get, we might have to hire another law firm if we don't have somebody hired by this time. So we will have somebody covering.
Supervisor Skabrowski.
I don't know if this is appropriate right now or not, but I just want to thank Jeff for the things that he's done for this county. You've saved us a pile of money through your actions. I think you have grown substantially since the day you were hired, and we appreciate everything you've done. So I just want to let you know that you're going away on good terms.
I'd like to second that.
Yeah. Yes.
I would like you guys to know it was a difficult decision to make.
You can go back on that decision if you want. We'll let you.
Will you let me wear a robe?
Sure. With a mask, yeah. Yes, thank you. Okay, seeing nothing else, Finance Director's monthly report.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yep. I submitted a written monthly report. Were there any questions on it?
No. So ARPA work group report, we already covered that probably. Are we fine with that? Okay. Quarterly report then, Finance Director?
Yep, Mr. Chair. So I have the quarterly report for the month ending June 30th, 2024. There are any, so let's go to the headers. It says account, so that's just a description of the account. We have it broken up by department, the 2-digit department code that we use. So clerk of courts, register of deeds, maintenance, that's how it's broken up. The 2024 budget amount. And sorry, I should have clarified this on the revenues tab. And the 2024 fiscal year to date activity. And then how much we're over or under budget. Over is going to be in parentheses and it's going to be green because that is favorable for revenues. Like if there's no budgeted revenues, it's going to show up as green. You'll see that $1,200 right there. And then we have the percentage. If there are any percentages that are under 50%, you're going to see a comment on there from me. At this point, there isn't much to be concerned about with individual departments. There are a few individual lines that are projected to be under budget, but there are other revenue sources that are covering it. For example, in the treasurer's department, she has late fees on taxes. That's projected right now to be under budget, but she's made up the revenue in interest income. Other than that, I don't think there's any others.
One question, down on miscellaneous revenues on line 127. You have revenues there due to the TID closure in the city of Adams. So is that going to increase the tax base then in the city? It should, right?
Mr. Chair, yes. Yes, it would increase the tax base. All of that, all those parcels that were in the TID are going to then move to regular tax levy. So on the levy limit worksheet, there is an adjustment for the percentage of the TID that would be part of the county now. And it's always like a very, very small percentage, but like when Newchester went out, I think it was a $15,000 increase when Newchester's TID expired.
Okay.
So then moving on to the expenses, if there's no questions there. Same thing, it's got the account description, 2024 budget, 2024 fiscal year to date activity, and then 2024 fiscal year to date under or over budget, and the 2024 fiscal year to date percentage. If the percentage on the expenses is over 50%, you're going to see a comment on there. Right now, there aren't any expense lines that are cause for concern, but there are comments on a few that are under the, or that are over the 50%. Any questions on the expenses?
Okay, don't see any. Okay. Thanks, Finance Director. So you can probably get back to your vacation now. So,
Thank you.
okay. Managers report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to start out with recognizing county personnel. Kiefer Schroka received a compliment from Bill Pegler regarding Kiefer's communication. The write-up is attached. You can see there it's a blue underline. That's actually a live document you can pull up and review at your leisure. So special thanks to Kiefer for a job well done. Next, we have the sheriff's deputies are recognized again for their hard work and being an effective team. A citizen actually sent an appreciation. You can see it there to the right. So special thanks to the sheriff's deputies for a job well done. Moving on to capital projects. Building project phase 2, which used to include the sheriff's office, has now reverted back to just being the building annex side. The funds that were earmarked for the sheriff's office are being utilized to replenish the cash at solid waste. Resolution 2024 didn't pass the board with a 3/4 vote, which would have replenished the solid waste cash spent to fund the Cell 6 expansion. Phase 2 annex project is moving forward now. A presentation is scheduled for the September 10th, 2024 Property and Rec Committee. Next up is highway, touch on County Highway M. It is complete essentially, but there are some punch list items. We touch on County Highway Z and G. Under happenings, it was announced earlier, Jeff's last day is fast approaching, August 16th. I did send out a communication that I'm hoping to put something together, you know, like a little luncheon or something on this as a parting thing or event. Next up, we have the Adams County Land and Water Conservation staff. They weren't really mentioned in the article, but they are pictured here. And I do have a link to the magazine that's highlighted in blue. So you can actually pull up the actual magazine, but then you'll have to scroll forward to page 24. What's on the horizon? Again, we have the board retreat fast approaching, August 26th. After that, we have the department head retreat, just for information sharing. It's September 26th. And then the Wisconsin County Association is fast approaching as well. And below that are just other meetings that I've attended and, you know, some events that have happened during the month. And in here, I want to share that the Land and Water and Planning and Zoning departments have now split. We have a department head who is Colton Wolasek for Land and Water, and then on Planning and Zoning, Dustin Grant. Other than that, are there any questions?
Supervisor Edwards.
Excuse me, I don't know if this is the right time, but has there been any buzz or anything going on with the reversal on Act 10 for unionization?
Have you heard anything?
I've not heard anything yet on that.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair.
Okay, yes.
Cynthia, you hear any progress with the splash pad?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so that is addressed in the project status report. There's a splash pad section there and just indicating in the report itself that nothing has been spent yet. There's no activity. Okay. We're still waiting for the December deposit, coming from the city. And remember that we're waiting for the CD to mature. I didn't want them to have to cash it in and pay a penalty. So we're just waiting for that to come in. So no activity as of yet.
So any thought to putting that pad on the new fire department thing? We could have both at once. It's just. I'm
Mr.
just
Chair, I
so
don't know how to
far-
respond.
Okay, we'll move on. Expense report. Okay, seeing no questions on the expense report, we'll move on then to next meeting date. September 6th, how does that work out? Friday, September 6th?
What? Actually, a Friday?
Oh, yeah,
The normal, used to be normal?
yeah.
Just leave, is that what it's gonna be?
It was Jeff's fault.
It's okay with me.
Okay, at 9 o'clock? Okay, so. Before we go into closed session, I just want to ask the IT director.
It was a consideration, don't laugh.
And look for a motion to convene in closed session per Wisconsin State Stand Section 1985, Param 1, Param G, for conferring with legal counsel for who the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the board with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. Supervisor Paylor, second by Supervisor Gabarski. Roll call vote. Supervisor Pease, Supervisor Edwards, Supervisor Gabarski, Supervisor Paylor, and Supervisor West is a yes. So we're in closed session. I'll excuse everybody but the county manager and the corp counsel.
We're gonna shut it down.
And you can shut it
correct?
down. You can shut it down because we'll just adjourn right out of it. Thank you.